Good afternoon. Welcome to the March 10th, 2022 meeting of the Chatham Finance Committee. Pursuant to Governor Baker's June 16, 2021 signing of an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, including the extension of his March 1 order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20 until April 1, 2022. This meeting of the Chatham Finance Committee is being conducted via remote participation. Every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. A reminder that persons who would like to listen to this meeting while in progress may do so by calling the phone number 508-945-4410, conference ID 707-117-688#, or join the meeting online via Microsoft Teams through the link in the posted agenda. Despite our best efforts, we may not be able to provide for real-time access, and we will post a record of this meeting on the town's website as soon as possible. In accordance with town policy, the public can speak to any issue or business item on the agenda during the meeting when recognized by the chair. And so with that, to be official, we will take a roll call of the committee. Andy Young.
Here.
Barbara Madison.
Here.
Joanne Sprague. Joanne, I know you're there. Unmute.
Here, Madam Chair.
John Whalen.
Here.
And the chair says present, and we have Tommy Doan.
Thank you. Here.
And now the chair says present, and we have a quorum. Let me just review for those in attendance the agenda for today. We have no minutes. We will do article reviews and voting on them, the preschool child support program. And I noticed that Danielle Talley is there. And is Jill present, Alex? I can't see.
Yes, she is. I was going to have her give the opening remarks for the preschool.
So when we get to that, then the child care voucher program, airport revolving fund, CPC articles. The one posted was the volunteer park playground, but they also voted this morning on the Affordable Housing Trust, so that will be presented. The room occupancy tax, which the select board did vote on, increased from 4% to 6%. Charter revision. I don't see John Carr at the moment, but he may be on. And then two possible articles, which we may not get to today. The ZBA runway protection zone, and then the airport capital project. So with that, we will start with our preschool support program. And I will.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Just thank you, Madam Chair. Just through you quick for Alex for our next meeting, please. I'm going to want to know our expected tax rate with the acceptance of all the warrant articles so far. And I would like to know, I think the committee would like to know, the value of Chatham's economy and what percentage of that economy is our fishing industry. These are for Alex to come back to us with, but I think they're important for this committee to know. And I thank you, and I hope we can go on with the meeting now. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, Alex, is that possible? The economy question is a broad one, I know.
It is, and I'm not sure if we have that quantified somewhere, but I'll see if I can get any information for you.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
Thank you, Joanne, for raising that. Thank you, Alex. For not next meeting, maybe the one after. So with that, we'll go to the preschool child support program, and I will turn it over to Alex. And
Actually, I'd like to turn this over to the town manager, Jill Goldsmith. She's been very instrumental in getting a group of stakeholders together to support the preschool program. So Jill, if you don't mind.
Sure. Thank you, Alex and Madam
Yeah.
Chair.
Jill, before you begin, thank you for providing all of the materials. I think that the committee got, that all of the work that went into it by the stakeholders, Danielle Tolley, by Luther Bates, providing the background material will help a great deal in this discussion. So with that, thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to do a brief summary, and if you have any questions, as the chair had said, there's others that are that have been involved with this concept and have brought it almost to fruition. So let me just begin by saying that the select board, sorry, it's been a longstanding goal of the select board to retain and attract families. And then this year as well is to have a feeder for Chatham Elementary School. So that's been a very important goal and objective and community vision statement for many years. So as the vice chair knows, I convened a group of stakeholders. And at that time, we were looking at a universal preschool program. And just so you and the public know, the stakeholders included Florence Selden, Luther Bates, Lindsay Beerworth, Scotty Finnegan, Teresa Malone, Gretchen Cobble, Cindy Horgan, Superintendent Carpenter, the elementary school principal Millen at that time, and now middle school principal O'Shea, the Monomoy Family Resource Coordinator, Lucy Gilmore, and town staff members, Katie Donovan, Mandy Speakman, and Eva Orman more recently. And so what's before you today is very different than the child care voucher program. It's not a voucher program. And what the select board had voted to approve 5-0 unanimously was to establish a preschool family support program to pay for basic preschool services at a Massachusetts licensed provider for 3- and 4-year-old residents of the town, up to a maximum of $10,000 per year for 4-year-olds and $5,000 per year for 3-year-olds. And eligibility is based on being either age 3 or 4 by August 31st of the school year. And then upon receipt of an application and verification by the town would then pay the provider directly, the licensed provider. Funding in the amount of $425,000 is being requested. As you'll see from the packet, Luther did an analysis about how to determine that population, and using that population figure, we put a dollar amount for the support that could be provided. And what you'll see is an annual town meeting article for this town meeting requesting that funding for $425,000 through an article so that any unexpended funds can roll over or carry over into the next fiscal year. And funding that is proposed will be, funding for the program is proposed through the tax rate. So the documents that you have lay out the suggested program. It is based on the Orleans model that was recently approved at their town meeting in October, so October 25th, 21. And I'm happy to answer any questions. And again, there's a whole team of people here, Luther, Jessica, I think Danielle as well.
Danielle.
Yep, who can provide even more details, because their research was essential, and it really got us to this point at this perfect time for town meeting consideration. So happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Jill, for that presentation, and thank you also for following up. I know that you worked with Lusa with that 365 Now advocacy group. I will point out that not only was this based on the Orleans model, but Orleans model was based on the Wellfleet and Eastham model, all of whom fund support programs for 3- and 4-year-olds and have for some years. This goes back to when I was on the select board, when I had friends on the Wellfleet board and supported this. The elementary school was, remember, Harwich and Chatham, and we would have had to do things in concert, and the other town was not prepared at that time. But hopefully we will be able to pass our a warrant taking on the elementary school as our own, Chatham Elementary School. And this is just coupled with it because it says, okay, we're going to have our own elementary school and we're going to do everything we can to get kids into that school so that we will be able to sustain that elementary school. So with that, I will turn it over to the Finance Committee for questions and comments. Who do we? Joanne Sprague, followed by Barbara Madison. Joanne, unmute. Joanne? Hello? Are you with us? Joanne?
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. Yes, go ahead, Joanne.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah.
I'm trying.
You're still muted. I can hear you. Can everybody else?
No.
No. Okay. Unmute yourself. All right, Joanne, go with that, and I'll go to Barbara and come back to you. Barbara?
Okay, Madam Chair.
Oh, there you are. Okay,
Who
good.
prescribes the offerings for the daily schedule for the preschool?
I'm sorry.
Okay, all right.
Joanne, go ahead, repeat it. Joanne?
She said, who prescribes the offerings for the daily
Oh,
schedule?
okay.
Who prescribes the schedule? Who prescribes the schedule?
Oh, for the 4-year-old for the school.
Thank you.
Okay. Does anyone want to answer that? Jessica?
Yeah, so this program's not run through the school. So I don't know, Luther, if you want to talk about how the licensed providers are identified.
That's right. It's individual providers. There's a list of them. For example,
Sure.
Rocky Unicorn, Laurel School, Children's Place. Go ahead, Luther.
I was just trying to figure out if the question was about the daily schedule, like what time in the morning to what time in the afternoon, or did the schedule mean once they're within the licensed pre-K providers curriculum, what did they do at 10 a.m.? Did they read stories or eat applesauce or what?
Go ahead, do both, Luther.
Well, I'll take the second part first because they all are licensed pre-K providers, and this is the pre-K family support program. So we're making a distinction between this program and the Chatham Network Voucher or the Chatham Voucher program. Two separate things. So the Chatham Network Voucher, I'll just identify here, is the child care component. There are licensed child care providers. There's summer camps and after school programs, and this is a pre-K component. So only licensed pre-K that exist are eligible. And the list that Florence referred to was it wasn't totally exhaustive list. So if there are other ones, they would be eligible too if a family had someone that wasn't on that particular list, but they did try to identify as many as possible. So within that licensed pre-K provider list, I'm sure they all have their own independent curriculums, and I don't know what time they eat lunch or play in the yard or do mathematical things that they do at age 3 and 4, but they think that the state and the town and the other parents trust them to provide that curriculum independently. And the part about the what time, I think that each parent has that choice, and probably Danielle would have some more specific insight here currently. But when my children were going to Rocky Unicorn, I wanted them to go as much as possible, but there was a ceiling on how much I could afford to send them there. So we could touch a little bit on the why is there a 5,000 versus a 10,000 component here. And I think that it's because typically the 3-year-old kids tend to go from 9 a.m. to 12. That's sort of the introduction to school, introduction to pre-K, introduction to being away from the family. Probably works a little bit on both ends from the mother's perspective as well, as that's really the first time that they're probably being away from the kid for an extended period of time. And some of those parents can elect to go and drop the kid off this Rocky Unicorn at 8 o'clock in the morning. So now they've stretched that window from 8 to noon. But once the kid gets a little bit older, they go into a expanded schedule where they could stay until 2 or 3, or I think maybe even the 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon at those same providers. So the schedule is longer, but ultimately those time options are provided by the preschool, but the time choices are selected by the parents and how it works for them.
Thank you, Luther. I want to point out that we know from many, many studies over the years the importance of early childhood education and the importance of getting 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds. They do much better in kindergarten, first grade, and throughout their schooling if they have those preschool years. And that's the preschool at 3-year-old, preschool at 4-year-old. This is a voluntary program. A parent does not have to select either, the 3-year-old or the 4-year-old option. You could wait to send your child to school, kindergarten, or first grade. You are not required to send your child to a 3-year-old preschool, 3-year-old preschool, 4-year-old. It's up to the parent. So, it's going to be offered to parents, but it is a voluntary program. Jessica or Danielle, you want to add to anything Luther and I said?
Did you want to go first, Danielle? I saw
Danielle, go ahead. I see your hand up.
Sure, thanks. So yeah, I wanted to also mention that, the way that this program is structured, it provides up to 4 hours a day, 5 days a week for a 3-year-old, and up to 7 hours a day, 5 days a week for a 4-year-old. So still a lot of choice is in the parents' hands about what will be the best fit for their child as they think about kindergarten readiness.
And these programs, we refer to the list, are operating currently. Rocky Unicorn is a program that has existed for many years right here in Chatham. The Laurel School is in Brewster. The Children's Place is in Eastham. And some of those people were on the stakeholders meeting and were asked if they had room, and they absolutely do. And they said there are parents who currently don't use the full hours because they can't afford it. So this would be an opportunity. And again, I, as an educator, value the importance of early childhood education. So thank you. Joanne, you have any additional questions? Joanne?
No, thank you, Madam Chair. Just a comment that I think this addition for Chatham to add to our school system is going to be a very important feature in the face that Chatham presents to the future. And I think it sounds very good, and I think we need to think ahead, and this is a good step forward for the town.
Thank you, Joanne. Barbara, you have your hand up.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I am really glad to see this finally coming up. I just was wondering, is there a financial component, a need component in the eligibility determination, or is it just for anyone?
Danielle, you want to respond?
Sure. There is no financial component. The idea is that we're laddering down the concept of public education. So just like kindergarten is not based on income, there's no income verification needed to send a 5-year-old to kindergarten. There's no income verification needed to send a 3 or 4-year-old to preschool and pre-K.
And it's only, I want to point out, this program is only for residents of Chatham. So it's people who live here. They will have to verify that. It could be ownership or it could be rental, but they have to live in Chatham. And that was the case in Orleans, in Wellfleet, and in Eastham. It's only open to residents of the town, Barbara. So
Thank you.
Let's see, who else? John Whalen, you have your hand up.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I just want to ask Danielle, if I could, is there any attendance requirement for the child going to these programs once they're accepted with the $10,000 or $5,000?
That would be up to the provider to establish any sort of parameters around attendance requirement. But the program itself is, designed for parents to make the choice of where they want to send their child. That's the best fit for their family, how many hours. And it really is, I think, case by case with the school. Personally, I can say that I have a child who's in preschool currently, and there's no attendance requirement. And frankly, I think it would be quite odd if there were an attendance requirement, because it's not functioning exactly as public education. And there's a very specific difference in that. And, families have different needs schedule wise. And so preschool and pre-K offer flexibility to the families also as how, to tailor make the schedules that fits the family's needs.
But there is no attendance requirement for kindergarten. And as Danielle pointed out in her first remarks, what we're doing is moving down. We're saying education for children can begin at age 3. And by the way, I'm sure many of you have been reading about the Common Start legislation in the legislature, or Massachusetts legislature. I don't know that it's going to get passed this year, but it's an effort by many groups in the state to have universal pre-K education in the state of Massachusetts. Other states do. And I was shocked to read that the state of Alabama spends more money on early childhood education than the state of Massachusetts. Barbara, do you have any other comments? John, Whalen, let's see. Andy Young.
Yes, actually, Florence, following up on what John had to say, that's a little bit of a concern, because the daycare providers also have to be able to count on a certain amount of attendance. I mean, like if your kid's going to go to the Rock 3 days a week or 4 days a week, I mean, I wonder if there's going to be some sort of follow-up to make sure that if these spaces are set aside for the kids and paid for by this program, that the kids are actually making those, attending as they plan to.
Right. Jill, do you want to respond to that at all? Because the town will be paying the providers.
Yeah, there would be vetting, and the town would process the request directly to the providers. So, I'm sorry, my camera's not on. I think the verification can be made that, and the provider, it demands pretty great. I would presume they wouldn't reserve a space and not have somebody in it. They would probably to the next person on the list. So I'm pretty confident that that there would be participation and, again, verification by the town when it comes to paying of the invoices.
And they get paid directly to the provider. Okay.
I'm a town vendor, yes.
Andy Young.
Okay, thank you. I noticed this article is raise and appropriate. Has any thought been given to next year or subsequent years? Or is this just sort of a first try to see if the town will go for it?
Jill?
Yeah, so I'm expecting it's going to be successful. And that was one of the reasons why we didn't have the first year from free cash, just to be consistent with our financial and compliance with our financial policy. So that reoccurring items are typically funded through the tax rate on the warrant. And then this will be able to carry over into the next fiscal year, because I think the application, as we had looked at it, would open up, very soon after town meeting, like June 1st through July 30th. But I'll look back on that. Danielle's nodding, so I guess I'm okay. But that was the plan, that this would be something that would be funded. Because we have room within the tax levy, we don't need to do a Prop 2.5 override. And that Prop 2.5 override route was taken by Orleans. So what Alex has assured me is that there is capacity in the tax levy. We never tax up to that levy limit. And that's been, at least for the last 9 or 10 years, there's always been that excess capacity available, but again, not taxed.
Thank you. That anticipated my second question. I'll just say that 30 years ago, Gene and I were fortunate to be able to find and to be able to place both of our kids in preschool. And we think it made a world of difference for both of them and for us. So I support this very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. Anyone else on the committee? Do I see a hand up? Andy, got you. Luther, I see your hand up. Do you want to make another comment, or is it still up from before?
Just when the board, the committee has had a chance to ask some questions, jump in here, but I just wanted to add another layer of why this is important here. And if you'd indulge me for a minute to give a little bit of background. I'm the Economic Development Chairman here, Economic Development Committee, which has kind of turned into more of an Economic Sustainability Committee, and that's been sort of our target and role. And this is a program, a solution, part of a solution package that we've been talking about a long time. Back in 2015, you'll remember the town asked the EDC to identify ways the town could encourage greater age diversity, which included maintaining the youth of the town, creating jobs, and improving the demographic balance. So we made a recommendation back in 2016 that identified housing as a primary problem here because of the high cost of living and the high cost of housing. So recognizing that that was a difficult project to tackle, we figured that if we could increase some funding to people in that demographic, that would offset or supplant some of their budget to be able to go into housing. So this is an economic benefit that is town-wide. So when you ask about attendance, it's like, I'm kind of chuckling here as I'm remembering when I was that age and I was the parent. This is a parent program too. This isn't just for the kids. It's an educational component for the kids for sure. And there's definitely that's an all-star component here, but the parents are winners here too. And the working parents in town are another goal of this project, because to have the ability to have your child being not only watched in a safe environment, but also being educated at the same time at pre-K level, it's like a totally allows the parents to go out and improve their work capacity within town. So that money could then be used towards housing. Like that was one of the whole points and the start of this snowball idea of where's this childhood project come into play from the Economic Development Committee standpoint. So I think that your attendance question is like, I'm going to send my kid there as much as absolutely possible. So I have very, very little concern that people will be trying to take advantage of the program and just then not sending the kid after all. Like the goal is to add more. And when I talked to the group who was in charge of the spearheading this program in Orleans, you know, the statements that they were made were, we have the up to level. Sorry, just wait for that. We have the amount of money that can be used is up to 5 and up to 10, but I'm not sure if
I can't talk. I'm in the meeting.
Oh, go ahead. Turn off your mic.
Sure, someone's got a mic on.
Mike, Tommy has his mic on.
Okay, so let's get this train of thought running again here. The up to 5 and up to 10,000 number that you're eligible for, I have to recognize is not the full cost of these programs. Orleans identified that some of the parents were able to extend the amount of hours that their child already was in pre-K, but also there was another group of people who had been sort of being watched at home that now could afford to go. And that freed up the parents and the grandparents and extended family to work extra time, which boosted local economy. And a tertiary component here that we need to acknowledge, that this is why this is such a collective home run, is that the employees at these daycare providers tend to be in the demographic that we're also trying to boost. So we've created a program that's boosted 3 types of things: education, parents can work, and we're drawing in the people to work at those facilities are in the demographic that we're trying to increase the population of. So
thank you, Luther. And I want to point out, this is not a daycare program. You use the word daycare.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's a child support education program, preschool.
Pre-K, yes.
Universal pre-K for
I'm supposed to be hyper vigilant about maintaining that
I
distinction.
know. I'm very hyper vigilant about that because there is a big difference between daycare and a licensed educational provider. And these are licensed educational providers. They're providing important component of education to our 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds. I didn't mean to do that, Luther, but
No, it's okay. It's important because that's what it's also important. So one of the next things we need to talk about is the family voucher program and why that itself is important because it picks up the second level of the piece here. So
okay, well, we're talking about the support program. I also want to point out that we would be the 4th town on the Lower Cape to institute this program. I think it sends a message to the young families on hoping to live on the Lower Cape. It's easier to live in Mid-Cape area, not perfectly easy, but easier than it is to live on the Lower Cape. And by the 4 towns joining together, I think we are adding to a statement that we are supporting. We are a region, an area that's supporting young families. So any other comments? I don't see.
Madam Chairman?
Tommy, your hand is up.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I think that this is a project that the town wants and the town needs, and I would like to move that we approve this.
Okay, is there a second? Do I have a
Second.
second?
Second.
Okay, a couple of seconds. Are there any other comments, questions? All right, with that, I will take the roll. Tommy,
Yes.
Andy Young,
Yes.
Barbara Madison,
Yes.
Joanne Sprague. Joanne? I know you said you support it, but I can't take that previous comment.
Yes,
Thank you.
yes,
Yes, thank you, Joanne. John Whalen?
yes,
John
Yes.
Whalen, and
yes.
yes, and the chair says yes. And so the vote is 6-1. Thank you very much, Luther, Danielle, Jessica, and Jill. Jill, do you want to go on with the voucher program or you want to turn it over to Alex?
Sure, I'll do that very quickly too. So you're familiar with the child care voucher program. And as we've discussed, this is a different program. So this was established, I think, prior to FY 2010. And it was originally and still is set up for temporary short-term assistance with child care costs. And it's noted in the program description, especially those families experiencing unexpected or extraordinary situations that are impacting their ability to pay for their Massachusetts licensed childcare arrangements, including summer camp. So this program is currently managed by Monomoy Community Services. We see Teresa Malone is here. And it's eligible for families with children ages birth to 13 years old or with dependents with special needs up to 22, whose legal year-round residence is in the town of Chatham. All of that is eligible for those who are residents of the town of Chatham or work in the town. So the child care, the registration is done through Monomoy Community Services, and the child care provider submits the registration paperwork and submits payment requests to Monomoy Community Services. Awards range between $100 and $1,500. And in some cases, including this year, we've had the opportunity for those recipients who received funding to come back for a second round of funding. So Teresa has provided a report. I'm not sure if you had that included in your handout materials,
We
but
do.
Good. So she'll talk about the total encumbered funds is $69,250. So as I said, it started in FY 2010. That time it was funded at $5,000. It's been incrementally increased up to $75,000 in FY 20 and 21, where we then took it out of the Human Services Department budget and put it into an article so that, again, funds could carry over, unexpected funds can carry over and roll over. At the meeting this Tuesday with the select board, With input by some of those that are in the meeting here, there was a vote to increase funding from $75,000 a year to $100,000 for FY23. So the article presented to you is for the child care voucher program at $100,000 and funded through the tax rate. So I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Does anybody on the committee have a question for Jill, or we can ask Teresa to add to it? Anyone have a question for Jill at this point? Okay, Teresa, do you want to make any additional comments? Let's see, Teresa. I know. Yeah. Go ahead.
I'm happy to answer any other questions you have. I think the increase is a great idea. The awards that we're able to give are significantly lower than the percentage of income that these households are needing to pay for childcare. The birth to 3, the preschool age, is one of the most expensive bills that families encounter early with their child life. And the school age population is one of the largest that utilizes this program as well. So I think it's only fair that the voucher program, which has been pretty much an integral part of why people are able to work in this town for a long time, I think it's important that it gets, gets to continue and, alongside of this new preschool program.
Thank you, Teresa. Okay, any member of the committee have a question? Do I see anyone's hand up?
Unlike the previous article, in this case, Teresa, these are means tested. Am I not right?
I'm sorry?
Are these awards means tested?
There's a criteria, and it's a point scale for, are you a town resident? Do you have children that need early care as opposed to school age? It runs a range, and the awards are based in whichever section you fall out. If you received 5 to 7 points, you're in a certain category, and the award range is based on those determinations. So yeah, it also involves submitting income verification. Income verification is not a prerequisite for participation in the program, but we do feel it's important to be able to break out, how many people using this program are 100% of median income, below median income. And the other criteria that's a little bit different is this was intended for working families. So if you have the luxury of stay at home, that has been a factor in whether you receive a large award or not.
Thank you, Tracy.
I have a follow-up, Teresa, too, Andy. Do you get extra points if you are a resident rather than work here? Because I know
oh, yeah, you do.
Almost half are not residents.
Yeah, you do get extra points for being a resident. We have a lot less. I mean, it's spread over, I think, I have it in front of me, 5 towns,
yes.
6 towns.
6 towns.
Yeah. Get extra points if you're, and we will be, this is the Human Service Committee's baby, and I'm meeting with them on Monday to review, this year, past years, where we see the trends and maybe some other things we can add as far as the application. And we're going to be implementing a revised point system to make sure that, but this is getting to the families that need it the most. It'd be interesting to see how the preschool families, are they also then going to be eligible to apply for the voucher program when their preschool money runs out? Or what do they do in the summer when their preschool is no longer in session? So some things to look forward to. I'm sure we can handle the challenges.
Anybody else on the committee have a question? Does somebody want to make a motion then to?
I'll move, we recommend approval.
Second.
Is there a second?
Second.
Hear somebody. Okay, we will One of the comments that I made at the stakeholders meeting, I felt that we should not raise the voucher program money because I felt it was premature, that we needed to stay where we were. Our efforts should be on the early childhood program, and it also would give us some experience about whether it will have an impact, that parents who now can use their money for preschool won't have to may have to go to the voucher for a lot less money, and it would have an impact. I know I sound like Scrooge, but I'm very anxious and hopeful and desirous that that $425,000 gets passed. Okay, we're ready for, we have a motion and a second.
Madam Chair, I see Teresa's hand is up.
Oh, Teresa, your hand. Yes, Teresa. I thought it was still up from before. Teresa.
No, I would like to comment on that, Florence, because
Sure,
you've made at a couple of meetings, you've made the point that this is very secondary to your efforts for the public education and private education, and preschool is all that instead of childcare. If I think at best, this should be considered an equally important part of our economic development, our educational development, our social and behavioral development of the children in this town and the families in this town. And I would really appreciate if you could in the future maybe get behind this a little more, because this program is extremely valuable. And I understand you have hesitations about people from other towns being able to receive funding. First of all, the awards have been very limited up to this point, and with the new program running, it's actually going to allow preschool age families to probably access even more funding than they've had in the past. So I'd just like a little bit of a cheerleading on that, since it doesn't seem to be something that you're particularly fond of at this point.
Teresa, I've always supported over the years, the voucher program. Absolutely. You go back, look at my record. I've always voted for the voucher program since it started. What I'm talking about is the increase, not the value of the voucher program. Absolutely not. So we're reading each other wrong if you think that. I don't. I voted for the increase. I voted for the 50,000. I voted for the 75,000. I've never voted against the voucher program. I'm talking about that increase this year. Okay.
Let's vote.
Okay. Let's see. John Whalen.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. I want to ask Teresa, someone mentioned earlier that the grants were as low as $100 up to possibly $1,500, and there might be a second round possibly. What kind of impact could $100 do for a family? It sounds to me so low that it wouldn't have any impact at all. Could you comment on that?
Sure. I think it's what you'll see with an award that little, and very rarely do we have an award that little. It'll be a situation where someone has gotten behind on a bill and they are asking for a specific amount to a childcare provider or to an after-school program. And it was very short term. The awards actually, the Human Services Committee last year increased them from up to $2,000 per child per family. So it is a little bit higher than that, but you can get very small awards. The range, even in preschools, the integrated preschool in the schools is $1,500 for the year. And I think if you asked Jessica and Luther and Danielle to raise their hands, I'm guessing that their bills have in the past have been a little bit more than $1,500 for the year for their preschool. So there's a range in the programs, there's a range in what people are asking for. And a lot of times people are extremely conservative in what they ask for through this program. They really just want to get out of a hole. They aren't looking for additional money. There's no other place for them to go. And we see a similar program that takes place that they are also eligible for through the Children's Place. They have an emergency childcare voucher. So should they run through this money, or somebody else in our town comes up with something else where they need additional funding, they can go there as well. So they can be very small awards.
And Luther, your final word, because we're going to vote.
Yes, I wanted to speak in favor of the increase as economic development person, we're going to look into this. There was discussions of this program being meritorious to the level of 250,000. I can't substantiate those numbers at this moment, but I do know that Teresa has the ability to increase those awards to become more on par with the program that we're already supporting for the pre-K families. This program is filling up some gaps. It's very important to know that the age 0 to 3, as she said, is eligible, and the age from 5 and up is eligible for summer programs and for after-school programs, and the daycare component for people who, even with the pre-K program that we just talked about, that we're optimistic will pass. There are some families on the lower end of the income stream in Chatham that still will not be able to afford a pre-K program, even with that subsidy. And this is the program that they turn to. It's of critical nature to see this as hand in hand from an economic development committee. And we should be investing in not only the youth of our town, but the adults who need to go to work in our town, or you're going to be seeing your favorite restaurants closed on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays in 5 years. So I'm supporting the increase. EDC would support the increase, I'm sure, if we had to vote. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Luther. John Whalen, your hand is up again. Do you want to say something? Quickly?
No, I failed to take it down from the last time. I apologize.
Okay, we're done. I don't see any more hands. So we're ready for a vote. Let's go to Alex, Andy,
Yes.
Barbara Madison,
Yes.
Joanne Sprague,
Yes.
John Whalen,
Yes.
and I think it's me, the chair, will abstain. And so it passes.
Excuse me,
Oh,
Madam
Tommy
Chair.
Down, Tommy Down, I forgot you. You're at the bottom of the list.
That's 2 in a row. Let's not have it happen again.
Poor Tommy.
Absolutely not. I'll start at the bottom from now on.
I support this.
Okay, it's 5-0-1. Thank you all. We now will move to the Airport Revolving Fund.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Madam Chair, could I get a point of order? I'm sorry, maybe I missed something, but it seemed in the last 2 votes, I heard that the outcome of the roll was 6-1 and now
No.
5-0.
It's 5-0-1. 5 in support, 0 against, 1 abstain.
Yes, I missed who was the abstain and who was the abstain in the,
I
sorry,
abstain.
not the abstain, sorry. Who was the no vote in here and the previous one?
There was no vote.
Yeah, if I may, the first vote for the preschool support program, I believe that it was read as 6 to none. So 6 in favor, none opposed, none abstained. This one was 5 in favor, none opposed, 1 abstention.
Okay.
There were
None.
no no's on the child support program.
Okay, thank you very much.
It was unanimous.
Thanks very much to the group.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you. We're now going to the Airport Revolving Fund.
Yes, thank you. We don't have anyone from the airport here today. As discussed, they will be on the agenda for the 16th. However, with the Airport Revolving Fund, the Select Board did hear this. We provided you the draft warrant article. This is fairly standard article at town meeting. Usually this is part of the consolidated revolving funds, and we voted that Finance Committee has voted that previously. And we're trying to get as many votes as we can in the warrant prior to the warrant going to print. We did segregate the Airport Revolving Fund authorization for this year as it is requesting an increase. The increase is to $150,000. As you might recall, there was an increase requested in the current fiscal year, FY 2022. Town meeting had authorized $75,000 for FY 2022. The Airport Commission requested and received authorization from the Select Board and the Finance Committee to increase that limit to $100,000 for this year. That was an increase of $25,000 within this year. And they're also requesting an additional increase for next year to bring the limit up to $150,000. And some of those fundings, the increase in funding, will be used to provide matching grant funds for any projects that they may have. So expect their regular expected expenses and matching funds. If there's further detail that's needed, we could put this off for a future vote, but I just wanted to see if we could get this before the committee today and get a vote in today. And I'm happy to answer any questions if I'm able to, and if not, we can bring this back.
This was voted by the, was this approved by the select people?
Yes, the select board did approve this by a vote of, I'm just finding the revolving fund here, 500.
Are there any questions from the committee? I don't see anybody from the airport commission. Alex, do they have any further? I noticed that there's a substantial amount left in the previous revolving in the fund last year. What is it, over $100,000? So why do they feel they need to raise it this high?
If I might, and I see John Whalen has his hand up after I answer this question.
Yes.
The balance is through December 31st, 2021. They did expect to have additional expenses with their contracted Gale Associates, as well as procuring legal counsel. So that's why they had requested the increase. And I can check the amount that's left as of February 28th. If you give me a moment, I will go get that.
Okay, John, your hand is up.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm probably in favor of the airport revolving fund, but I also would like to register the comment that I don't feel the Airport Commission has been particularly responsive to the public in many, many, many different areas. And although I will vote to approve this, I really feel that if we could put in a request that there be more responsiveness on the part of the Airport Commission, it certainly would be helpful.
Thank you, John. Does anybody else have a comment?
We can note that. I don't think we can put that into the revolving fund authorization, but that is noted. And right now, the balance in the revolving fund as of February 28th is $71,461. Also, if they don't expend these funds, they carry forward in the revolving fund to the next year, and they have to have enough revenue to support any expenditures. So no money will come from the tax rate. Again, this is all from the fees that the Airport Commission collects themselves.
And all those bills, Alex, go through your office. Nothing is paid by the Airport Commission as such. It's paid by the town of Chatham.
That's correct. The process is that the airport commissioners review the bills. They're approved by the airport commissioners through the staff liaison. They're submitted to the accounting department to verify that there's funds available to pay those, as well as that they're in compliance with Mass General Law. We process them the same as we do any other bill that comes through the town of Chatham.
Any other questions?
Lauren.
The question I have, yes,
Madam Chairman, it's Barb.
Barb, yes.
I was
Yeah,
just wondering,
Go ahead.
Alex, do you know why the receipts, there's such a dramatic difference in the receipts for 21 and 22? Is it because the 44,000 for 2022 is only half a year?
That's probably part of the case, as well as the hangar leases are tracked separately so we can ensure that the rentals are being paid. And then at the end of the year, we put them into the, this all came in actually during the fiscal year. But the revenues, I can get the revenues. We'll see what they are at the end of the fiscal year. I'm sure that it will be similar to what was received in FY 2021. But as I said, if they don't have the revenue to support the expenditures, then we will not pay the bills.
Right. Okay, thanks, Alex.
Alex, I have a question. Do you know if any of the proposed increase will be used to implement any part of the revised airport plan, or is this premature that it hasn't been done, the easements and so forth?
The explanation is that the increase would cover expected expenses and matching funds for any anticipated grants, which are some of those federal and state funds that do come in.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, comments? I see, let's see, Tommy, your hand is up. Unmute, Tommy. Tommy, you're still muted.
Okay, how about now?
Now you're good.
Okay, sorry. Question for Alex. Alex, the operator of the airport, does their contract run with our fiscal year?
That contract has been awarded. It's greater than a fiscal year, so I'd have to see and look at the expiration date. I don't have that right in front of me right now. I was not anticipating that question, but I can find that for you in a minute.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, to follow up on Tommy. So if, does this contract with Gale, it requires an RFP, doesn't it? Since it's over 10,000, or do you have to submit one, whatever is the length of the contract, 3 or 5 years?
Yeah, the Airport Commission would go out and request proposals for contracted services. And again, usually these contracts run as a 3-year term. That's a typical term for contracts of this nature. I'd have to, again, I'll double check the term.
And Alex, does the town manager as well as the Airport Commission have to approve this RFP?
They would make a recommendation to the town manager, and then the town manager is approval of contracts, and plus we have to approve that there are funds available. So it goes through the typical process as other contracts with the town.
Okay. Any, Tommy, your hand is still up. Do you have another question? Tommy? Okay, down. Okay,
Well,
any comments, any other questions? All right, we need a motion and a
So
second.
moved.
Is there a second?
Second,
Okay, I'll take a roll call. Said it, start at the bottom. Tommy Doan, you're first.
Yes.
Okay. John Whalen,
Yes.
Joanne Sprague,
Yes.
Barbara Madison,
yes.
and Andy Young.
I'm usually at the end, but yes.
I don't know, you're up there. And you are first, but I said I'd start with Tommy, Andy, so I was forced.
That's not, no, I don't feel bad. Tommy deserves it. He needed to be called on first.
And the chair says yes, and so 6-0.
Thank you, Andy.
All right. Our next is the volunteer park playground.
Yes,
Yeah, either one of you.
thank you. I'll start and then I'll let the chair of the CPC, Debbie Aiken, speak to this. Again, you had requested a copy of the application, which I submitted to you yesterday. So that was in the agenda packet. And this was submitted for $225,000 by Dan Tobin, the former recreation director. As you might know, the article is being recommended at $300,000 because there was a lot of discussion, and I'll let Debbie speak to this, regarding the type of surface that would be in this playground. As you might recall, when the CPC recommended funds for the elementary school playground, that was a poured in place surface rather than the wood chips. This was originally contemplating wood chips, but I think the CPC felt that a poured in place would be a more accessible for children of all abilities to access the playground. So I'll turn this over to Debbie. I think she has a good handle on the discussion from the CPC and the request.
Debbie, welcome.
Thank you. Well, Alex has done an excellent job of summarizing everything. We did not get a budget for this. We do not know what it's going to look like, what the design is going to be. Today at the meeting, I suggested a caveat that a working group be formed to come up with a design, but we didn't want to put that in a motion. So the motion is for $300,000. We feel we need to get started on this, and hopefully the CPC will be able to get input from whoever is doing the design of the playground. So, and we hope that it can come in with a poured ground surface like the Ellis playground.
All right, are there questions from the committee? John Whalen.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. On my paper, it doesn't give a vote of the select board. Has the select board voted on this program?
No, the select board have not voted on any of the CPC applications yet. That's on their agenda for March 17th, the special meeting next week.
Are you
but the select board,
that we wait?
no, I don't think you need to wait because the select board really does not have a say over the CPC article, so to speak. As you are aware, Madam Chair, any articles from the Community Preservation Act must be referred and recommended by the Community Preservation Committee. They are the only ones who can recommend to town meeting the funds from the CPC. So again, that's why we've had these votes come before the Finance Committee prior to the Select Board meeting.
Yeah, and I understand that perfectly, just like we don't. I mean, they don't really have to come before the Finance Committee either, because as you say, it's between the CPC and the town meeting. Barbara Madison, you have your hand up.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Alex or Debbie, I'm a little uncomfortable approving or voting for 300,000 when we don't really know what it's for. I'm thinking way back when we first built a playground next to the Veterans Field, a lot of townspeople got involved with the project and did a lot of the work. Is that going to be one? Is that going to be happening on this project too? And two, do we have any sense of what a budget might be?
Debbie, do you want to respond?
You point up some very valid questions, and I'm afraid I have no answer for them. I don't even know what Park and Rec has done. Maybe Alex is aware of some discussion that they've had.
Yeah, if I might, again, this was, the application was submitted by Dan Tobin, who, as you know, has resigned after many years with the town. It was his goal to get this, at least funding started for replacement of volunteer park playground. The equipment is in pretty rough shape. So we were trying to get this before approved at this town meeting so we can have the playground renovated in the fall. I know that he did reach out, I think based on other quotes for playgrounds of this size and scope to come up with the estimate for the number, but a detailed budget was not presented. Oftentimes the CPC likes to see that, but again, I think in the essence of trying to get this funded and with his impending retirement, I think, it was just try to get this, to get it funded for this town meeting.
Joanne, your hand is up. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you finish, Barbara? Barbara?
I guess so.
Go ahead, Joanne. Your hand is up.
You're muted.
You're muted. Joanne?
Yes.
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 Go ahead.
Madam Chair, based on Dan Tobin's 40 years of experience and our need to get started on the beginnings of this project, I recommend that we approve this warrant article.
Okay, thank you. Are you making the motion? Or?
Yes. I'm sorry. I move that we approve the article, the warrant article.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, let's see. John Whalen, your hand is up. Is that up from before?
Yes, yeah, it was up. It's up from now.
Okay, go
Thank
ahead.
you, Madam Chairman. I want to ask Debbie particularly if at any point during the discussion, she may or may not know this, was there any discussion of a dog park at Volunteer Park? It's been something that's been floated around Chatham for a long time. And I wondered if at any time that discussion was part of the decision to ask for 300,000.
There was never, I'm sorry, there was never, ever mention of a dog park. No.
Okay.
That's correct. And
Barbara, Tommy, your hand is up. Oh, I'm sorry, John, are you finished? John.
Finished.
Okay, Tommy?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a question. How old is the equipment that's up there now?
If I might share my screen, I have some photographs that were taken last summer. Let's see if I can get to that.
I went there just a week ago, and those photographs, they have taken some of that out of there.
Okay.
It's very pretty.
Yeah.
That's not the one that I'm looking for.
No,
Sorry.
I don't
That's
think
not
so.
what I saw when I went there.
Okay, so these, can you see this?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the stairs. That was just a piece of equipment. You can see it's rusted through here. Rusting on the corners. Obviously that I hope that has been taken out. That was, looks
Yeah.
like the monkey bars that are deteriorated. So again, less equipment there.
But they were removed.
I would assume so. This looks like it has not been,
That's still there, and the two towers with the slides is still there, and there are some swings.
Debbie, does this also include replacing the skateboard? I've been there to watch kids do skateboarding. It seems okay, but is it going to be replaced?
Well, I was interested to watch the Park and Rec meeting where, this was just a couple of weeks ago, where they discussed the playground. And just prior to the discussion, there was a couple there from Harwich looking for permission to have skateboard lessons in the skateboard park. And so then it got on to, well, does our application cover improvements to skateboard park? And I thought, the answer,
Yeah.
of course, was no. That'll probably be next.
I'm sorry, so they didn't, the Park and Rec did not have a position on this, or you're saying they didn't know about this?
I don't think they knew. That was the impression I got.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I must admit, I went and looked at the agendas for the last couple of meetings, and I didn't see any agenda item that said volunteer park. So maybe it happened and it wasn't on the agenda. It's not supposed to, but it happens. Alex, did you want to say something? I'm sorry.
well, I see Andy's hand is up,
And-
but I was
yeah,
just going
and-
to say that I think with the, when we hire the new recreation director, I think that we can, firm up the facts here and probably, as I said, with the transition, I think that was a little bit of the disconnect here.
Andy, you're on.
Thank you. It was very helpful to have the CPC application because in fact, a number of these questions are answered right there.
Right.
The playground would be constructed during the summer or fall of 22. Existing playground removed and disposed of by town DPW crews. New playground would be delivered to the site in Chatham. Playground would be installed by a certified playground installation company, which is all the thing now because you're trying to prevent or at
Right.
least reduce town liability. And final site work be completed by town DPW staff. This is not the kind of playground typically that community members can help to build. I helped to build that Bob Leathers playground by Veterans Field Lothies many years ago. And it was a lot of fun, but I wouldn't know the first thing about putting one of these mechanical ones together. I can pound nails and use a handsaw. That's about it. So I think this is a perfectly reasonable application, and it's specific to the playground. Does not, I don't see anything in here having to do with the skateboard area. So I think I'm still in favor of it. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other comments? Barbara, you have a hand up again.
Well, clearly the playground needs to be fixed, replaced, whatever, but I guess I'll vote for it because it isn't going to really matter anyway. It's the town who's going to decide, but I do think we need to be better with budgeting these things. I've been harping on budgeting and staying within budgets for a long time, and I would vote happily for $225 based on, as Joanne said, Dan Tobin's experience. But, just to toss 300,000 out there, I guess I'll just have to trust that that the committee or whoever's in charge will be very careful dispensing these funds. And if they don't spend the entire 300, that they will give it back to the CPC.
Yeah, and that would be the case because again, we're not handing out a check. The bills will come through the town because it is a town project.
Tommy Doan? You had your hand up. Tommy?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Alex, I didn't get my question answered. How old is the equipment that's up there? Do you know?
I do not know. I'd have to pull the application, but I think it's the original. I'm not sure when Volunteer Park Playground was built. It might be the original equipment. I don't know. I'll look at the application.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Alex, I think it was sometime when I was on the select board. I'm not sure, but yeah, I agree with Barbara. I know that it's up to the town meeting to decide. Certainly the playground needs to be replaced. And I'm just sorry that an application, I've seen a lot of applications over the years from the CPC that are fleshed out. I'm just sorry that the application from the town is so limiting. There's no design work, the plan about what surfacing. Will they come back then if it doesn't meet the requirement? What kind of playground are they putting up? Are they just replacing the exact same pieces of equipment that are there now? So I would hope that in the future, applications from the town can be more complete. And I think that the town should be a model for applications from other organizations and groups, that just because the money is there doesn't mean it needs to be spent by any group, whether it's CPC money or free cash money. So I agree with Barbara. I mean, I don't want anybody to get hurt. I want the playground replaced. I'll vote for it, but I'm certainly not happy with the quality of the application. It's not up to me. I'm not on CPC. All right, Andy, you were gonna say something. Oh, yeah. Andy, is your hand up? Oh, you've gone away. Joanne, your hand up?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This money and everything having to do with this project will be monitored through the town. The funds will be expended through the town. What isn't used will be returned to the town. I think this project matches what just voting, welcoming young families into Chatham. This is going to take a while to get this going. And I think if we vote authorization now for the money, it will be monitored by the town and watched over. And I really think we need to add this to the preschool, childcare, kindergarten, all of this to make our town attractive and competitive with the towns around us. So this has already been moved and I vote yes, approval of the warrant article.
I think we have somebody's hand up. Tommy, your hand is up.
I'm sorry.
Okay, you took it down.
Yep.
John Whalen, did you have something more to add? Alex does.
Yeah, the installation of the playground was completed in 2001.
Oh, it was. Is that long
Thank
ago?
you.
Okay, with that, as Joanne said, we have a motion and a second. So we will start with Andy Young.
Yes.
Barbara Madison.
I'll vote yes, but I also want to say that if we're doing all this stuff for young people, we've got to have a place for their parents to live in this town too.
And while we're at it, okay, never mind. Joanne?
Yes.
John Whalen?
Yes.
Yes.
Let's see, we are up to Tommy Doan.
Yes.
And the chair says yes, although I will point out I've been sitting at the volunteer park. I walked that used to, not now, a great deal. And that park, particularly the skateboard, is used by an awful lot of adults. So it's not just the children. All right, the vote is 6-0-0. And now we'll go to the room occupancy tax. Alex, you're on.
I'm on. Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. The select board had discussed when we first talked about the budget summit in October, and then in November 16th, we were looking at different revenues and ways to raise revenues without impacting the tax rate. And one of those is the room occupancy tax. I think this was brought up especially in regards to the expansion of the room occupancy tax to the short-term rentals, which really increased the amount. And in your packet, I gave you the detailed report that was made to the select board on February 25th regarding room occupancy tax. And just as a background, what room occupancy tax is, it applies to traditional lodging as well as short-term rentals, Airbnb, etc. And the local communities can impose a 4 to 6% local tax, which is added on to the 5.7% tax that goes to the Commonwealth. And then also with the expansion of the rooms tax to the short-term rentals, there's a 2.75% tax that goes to the Cape Cod and Islands Water Protection Fund for sewer, of which Chatham will be getting quite a bit of money back from that fund. We've put in quite a bit of money from our room tax. It's generated a lot of money. So we will get that back over the next 10 years for some of our pre-existing debt, as well as for some of our new projects for wastewater. So the maximum charge would be 14.75% that would go on to the lodging tax. Chatham's currently at 12.75%. And I put in your packet that there are 4 towns who currently charge less than the 6% local tax. Chatham is one of those at 4%. Falmouth is at 5%. Harwich is at 4%, which is soon to go up to 6% as of January 1st, 2023. And Sandwich is at 4%. Also in your packet, I showed what the over the past 5 years, if we had had an additional 2%, that would have raised almost $6 million in additional revenue. Specifically, FY 2022, almost $1.6 million from the additional revenue. So the additional 2%, if it were to be in effect. The board, when they discussed this, they talked about, what do we do with this additional revenue? Do we dedicate it to a special revenue fund for affordable, attainable housing, to put it into, a capital stabilization, trust fund, et cetera? There's many different ways we can do that. The board did not take a vote on that. They just did vote to advance this to town meeting to increase it to 6%. But there was discussion on, specifically some members felt that it would not pass town meeting unless it was a dedicated source for funding. I know one of the comments was, with the increase of Chatham taking over its own elementary school, should we dedicate a portion of this increase for that, as well as housing, and I forget what the other comment was. So those are some of the items that they talked about. At this point, if this does, and it only requires a simple majority at town meeting, does not require the legislature to approve this, because we already have this. This is just an increase in the local option. So this would close to free cash as it is currently proposed, unless an article comes up, but that is something that we can always do at a later date. We can always segregate the funds at a later date. If the funds do close to free cash, that would offset the amount that we would need to raise through the tax rate to fund some of these items through the tax levy, such as the taking over the elementary school, which we're looking at about almost $800,000 for that. And that will be coming up at the select board's meeting, I believe, next week, as well as closing to free cash that can be used for attainable housing, coastal resiliency, any items that might be necessary at that time. Free cash does take a vote of town meeting. As I've said in other meetings, we don't have a slush fund that we can just take money out and spend it. We need an appropriation as voted by town meeting in order to expend funds. So I'm happy to answer any specific questions you may have.
Alex, thank you. And we'll start off questions with Joanne.
Madam Chair, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I think this is a first for me, Madam Chair. I've never voted to increase tax on our local business. However, I'm going to vote yes on this because I think Chatham has very much to offer the tourists that come to this town. They do have an impact on our infrastructure, on our coastal resources, and everything that Chatham has to offer. And every town around us has increased this tax. So we're not ruining our ability to compete. So I'm going to vote for this. I think it's a step in the right direction, and I think we owe it to the maintenance of the town and retain the beauty of our town to let the tourists who come here to enjoy it pay for it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joanne. Andy?
Thank you. I too am in favor of increasing the amount. I do have a question though about the special revenue fund. You know, what sort of legislative action does the town have to take in order to create one? Because one of the things that I would note is that, you know, all of these or many of these tourists are now being occupied in short-term rentals that affect our affordable and attainable housing stock. Thanks.
Yeah, and as you might recall, we do have a couple of home rule petitions going up to, that you'll be asked to revote those, that we're refiling the home rule petition for the Attainable Housing Trust, the new housing trust. So these funds could go into that trust fund or a portion of them. Again, it might not be all, it might be a portion of them, or even an appropriation from free cash could go into that trust fund as well. So that wouldn't require special legislation. Other items might require a vote of town meeting, depending on what type of special revenue fund it is.
Thank you. Andy, anything else? Follow up? Okay, Barbara, your hand is up.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, I guess I'm one of those people who is going to vote no on this because until we know what we are planning to use the funds are, I am not for just gathering them up and tossing them in free cash, or, you know, I would like a dedicated source that we're going to use it on. I think everything Joanne said is true. And if we were planning to bone up infrastructures or, you know, do whatever it is that we need to take care of the things that the tourists are ruining, then I might consider voting for it. But at this point, without a dedicated use of funds, I am not going to vote to increase the tax.
Let's see, anyone else? John Whalen?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Some years ago, I was part of a subcommittee led by, at the time, Dean Nicastro, that studied just this subject. And we heard from the Chamber of Commerce, we heard from the Merchants Association, and in the end, we decided that 4% was adequate for the town of Chatham, that perhaps it would hurt some people who were renting. Times certainly have changed. I'm interested in hearing the reasoning why we would think we should go to 6% now from 4%, other than the fact that we can, because our neighboring towns have. I agree with Barbara. I really prefer to know where it's going to go. But have we, in fact, heard from the Chamber of Commerce or the Merchants Association on this subject?
Alex?
Not that I'm aware.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, Barbara, you have your hand up again, or is just left over? Barbara?
Oops.
Okay, okay. I am in favor, like Joanne, of increasing. I think the short-term rentals have had a tremendous impact on our businesses. I mean, our B&Bs and so forth. All the individual homes that are being in this kind of program. And I don't think it has shown to hurt the other towns either. But I am very concerned, and maybe that's a statement maybe we should talk about this. We have, certainly in our article that we write our report, have put in recommendations. I'm concerned about adding money. We just made a comment that free cash is not a slush fund, and that just depositing money in free cash like the Harwich IMA money, without any plans for it except to draw on it as needed, puts us in the same position. The amount of money that Alex suggests that could be raised on this is quite large. And not to know that we would use it in some way, whether to pay down debt on the sewer, affordable housing, attainable housing, and just deposit it once again in the slush fund. And then the select board tried, 2 or 3 years ago to, I guess, set up a stabilization fund that was turned down, and nothing more has happened. So that's my deep concern about just saying raise it and putting it in to free cash. Joanne?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Chatham is changing and our needs change. And so we need a flexibility to be able to decide in case of emergencies where this free cash is going to go. And remember, it is our job, the Finance Committee, to watch over free cash and to make sure that the taxpayers' money does go in the place that's good for them and good for the town. So that's our job, to keep track of free cash. And I think the flexibility of the changing, to be flexible to address changing needs, whether it's affordable housing, these educational issues, or dredging, coastal problems, whatever. So I think there's nothing wrong, from my point of view, of this money going into free cash, as long as we have the watchdogs, which is the Finance Committee, to watch over it. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanne. Yes, and maybe part of it is making a very strong statement that we want the select board to make a decision about where this money should be used. Anyway, I'm going to Andy before you.
Yeah, Alex, you kind of answered my question about what legislative action would be needed to create an SRF. You know, is this something that the town can do on its own, or do we have to wait on the home rule petition?
It depends on what type of fund it would be. If it's a capital stabilization fund, that requires a vote of town meeting. If it's, again, if these funds were to go into that housing trust fund, we have that legislation pending. Again, the funds could not go in there until that's approved by the legislature. So again, that one is different. If it goes into the regular affordable housing trust fund, we have that set up. That's okay. The funds could do that. And I was just looking at my notes from the select board meeting on the 1st, and they wanted to have a discussion on how to use the additional revenue on or before the date the warrant closes on the 22nd. So just for your information, if you want to, hold off on voting to see if they come up with something, but again, then your votes won't get into the warrant. So I was just making you aware of that fact.
Okay.
I mean, I think, you all have persuaded me that it'd be far better if we had some sort of a special dedicated fund that this money goes into. My mind immediately leaps to affordable and attainable housing, but perhaps there's something else. But whatever it is, I don't want it going into free cash.
Okay, well, I'm going to throw this out to the committee. We can take a vote on raising it to 6% and make what we would hope would be a very strong statement to the select board for them to consider when they take this up on, what's the date you said?
My notes say that they want a discussion on how to use on or before the 22nd.
Okay, so we could send what we would hope would be a special note to them if the committee so agreed, that said, we think it's very important that you determine where this money will be going, whether it's to the schools, whether it's to affordable housing, etc. We have enough places that we could put it right now rather than just to free cash. So I open it up for your comments. John, your hand's up.
Certainly. Thank you, Madam Chairman. I know Alex's desire is to have Finance Committee votes on all the different warrant articles, but I would prefer certainly to wait till after the selectmen have had their discussion and made it very clear what they're doing, Otherwise, I'll be forced to vote no on this particular article since I don't know where it's going.
Okay, let's see, John's hand is up. I see Barbara's hand is up.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Yeah, exactly what John said. If we vote on it now, I'm going to vote against it. If we hear what the selectmen want to do with it and vote later, then we can certainly speak from town meeting floor as to what our vote was, then I might be inclined to vote for it.
Andy, you have your thumb up.
Simply to agree. I mean, I think, we either vote to table it or we don't do anything with it until the selectmen have made a choice as to where they want it to go.
Okay, do I have a motion that we wait until after the selectmen discuss this? And
So moved.
okay, second. And I would also like to add that I don't think it's inappropriate for us to send a statement to them, for them to consider that the Finance Committee did not vote on this article because we felt very strongly that the money should not go into free cash, but have a direct source. Is that, can I add that to the motion? John?
Yes.
Okay, we'll vote on that motion. Barbara, your hand is still up, or?
No, I'll second that motion with your addendum.
Okay, we'll start with Tommy Doan.
Yes.
Madam Chair.
Oh, I'm
Madam-
sorry, Joanne. Sorry. Go ahead.
Madam
ahead.
Chair, I just want it to be noted that I'm in favor of this warrant article, and I'm in favor of it going to free cash, and because I think the Finance Committee can watch over it and handle it. So
Well, then you vote no.
I'm not.
Vote no on the motion.
Okay.
That's the way to do it. Okay. All right. We'll start
Okay.
with you. We'll start with you, Tommy.
Yes.
Okay.
Tommy is a yes. John Whalen,
Yes.
Barbara Madison,
Yes.
Andy Young,
Yes.
and Joanne Sprague.
No.
And the chair says yes. So it's 5, 1 against, 0 abstentions. Okay, Alex.
Okay.
How do you want to handle that? Should we send just a separate statement, a brief statement to the select board for them to consider at that time?
I could probably send an email through the town manager to let them know that, this was on for consideration. I don't know when she has it up for reconsideration by the select board, so I'll check on that as well. I think that's probably the best way to handle that.
Yes, that the committee seemed to be in favor, I think, of raising it, but not without knowing where it was going.
Correct.
And then we have a charter revision. I don't see, am I?
Yeah,
missing- is it John
I don't
Carr?
see John Carr here, so I think we should defer that until one of the next meetings. And I know that we had talked about, the airport coming before you next week.
Right, on the 16th, I believe.
Yeah, and I know that Nicole Stern and Rick Levitt have been here. I hope that they're able, and we did say that at the beginning.
Yeah.
I thank them for their patience in waiting, and I don't know if they're not able to make the 16th, if there was anything that they wanted to say in advance, just to, opportunity. I'm not sure how you want to handle this, Madam Chair.
Yes, let me see. Nicole or Rick, do you want to comment at all that we postpone this? Are you able to come back on the 16th?
This is Rick Levitt. I'm able to come back on the 16th.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for your patience too, Rick. Appreciate it. And, our chair wanted to be with us, so we're going to postpone it till the 16th. Nicole, is that okay with you?
Yes, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay, thank you both for being on. Thank you for your patience. And I want to thank all the participants, everybody who participated in our discussion today. Is somebody, no, I think everybody is. Rick, is your hand up or are you okay? No, you took it down. Okay, great. Alex, anything else for the The good.
No, I don't think so. I think our meeting on the 16th will be pretty busy. We have the zoning
Right.
as well as some of the affordable housing and refiling the home rule petitions. I'm going to try and get you out the agenda packet a little bit earlier than I have, and I'll make sure that Andy gets a copy again. I don't know what happened there. We'll send it again. So again, I'm going to try to get that out sooner rather than later, so you have time to go over everything.
Now, can you tell us when the citizens' petitions will be heard? There are quite a few of them.
We have not received all the citizens' petitions, so that was again one of the reasons why we wanted to postpone, knowing that there are several petitions out there circulating. I've only been notified of the one, which was the early one regarding the Monomoy Theater, and we'll have to see if we can schedule the petitioners to appear before you at some point in the future. Once, as I said, I know we were looking at the airport items for next week. And then I think that the chair had also requested your availability for a special meeting either on the 18th or the 21st. And I hope everyone has replied to the chair, so we can see if we can schedule that.
On the Monomoy Theater one, in the interest of time, if people can watch Peter Farber's original request to the select board on this, his original presentation, could you send us the date of that? Because I forgot what it was. And
Yes.
so that might, in the interest of time, help us. It was a very long presentation. It was like 40 minutes. And I don't think that the finance committee wants to take that long a time, with any one item, any one petition that long. So it would help if you just get some background.
Okay.
Okay? Makes
Yep.
sense? All right. And Debbie Aikman, you have your hand up. Do you still?
Yes, I had a question for Alex. Does the finance committee vote on the administrative line item in
Yes, we did. We did.
You did vote on that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so all of the CPA articles have been adjudicated by your committee?
Correct.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
What a fancy word, adjudicated.
I just wanted to be sure. Thank you.
We did, Debbie. Thank you. Debbie, thank you for being here.
And I don't think the charter was on the agenda for today.
Yes, it was. It was at the top.
Really?
It was the top of page 2. It says charter revision.
Oh, I don't see it on the town post, so
I got it from the post. Oh, that's funny. Okay.
So, Madam Chair,
Yes.
did we talk about the CPA Affordable Housing Trust Fund?
well, that's also what I was wondering.
Oh, we did
Yeah.
not, because you
We-
said that was just voted yesterday.
It was just voted this morning.
Yeah,
What was the admin?
we did not. It wasn't on the agenda, but it does say, we can vote articles. Let's see what it was.
Oh, I can put it on for the next time.
It
That's
just
fine.
say other articles, votes may
Yeah.
be taken. Room occupancy tax was one of them, and charter revision was the other, but there was nothing on the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, because I guess that was this morning. Thank you,
Okay,
Deb, for reminding us. Why don't you put it on for next time?
I will.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And what was the vote, Debbie, just for curiosity?
For,
Or
The
Alex,
Affordable Housing Trust Fund.
it was unanimous? Oh, Alex, that was
Yep, it was
for
a
$500,000?
How much was it? I'm sorry.
$500,000 to go into the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, and I'll explain the reasons for the amount in your packet.
Okay, thank you. All right, we need a motion. John Whalen, your hand is up.
Yeah, just a general comment. I'm very much in favor of all the things we're doing. Certainly the payment to Harwich to help the Chatham Elementary School survive. Certainly the preschool support program, the childhood voucher program, the volunteer program. But as Barbara alluded to, I think we're ignoring the elephant in the room, which is still the problem that Chatham does not have very much affordable housing available. and it really doesn't have very much in the pipeline, and we know it takes a long time. Many of those things are certainly desirable, and I voted for all of them, but I think we want at some point to really get closer to the actual programs that will produce affordable housing rather than talking about them. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely, John. Hopefully the child support, 3 and 4-year-olds will help keep young families in town, but that doesn't get at the cost of housing, both affordable and attainable. We are at 5%. People may not care about the, state housing inventory numbers. And will we ever get to the 10%? I made the comment yesterday that Orleans is over 10%. Now they're going to get almost 50 new units of affordable rental. That's going to bring them way up. So yeah, it continues to be a problem. We continue to need to push on it. And certainly I hope that in our final report, in the warrant, we will keep at that. That is certainly a priority for us. It is for the select board, I know, and for the town. But it's hard. Thank you, John, for reminding us of that. And with that, we need a motion to adjourn.
One more thing, please, Madam Chair.
Yes, certainly, Barbara.
Dovetailing from John, it's been distressing to me, a couple of things that have happened in town, such as the purchase of Dick Rochette's apartment building by Eastward Ho for their employees. And I just heard recently that the Chatham Motel has been purchased by Paves for their employees.
Yes.
It's discouraging that we have not heard about these larger unit pieces of property that the town might have considered buying, especially now that we're funding our affordable trust. So as Stephen Daniel is famous for saying, we've been yakking about affordable housing for a couple of decades and we've done precious little to improve upon it. The 10% almost doesn't matter anymore, because what the 10% gets us to is a point where there can't be any zoning that circumvents local zoning laws, but we just don't have that much land anymore available. So that doesn't matter. But what does matter is that young parents have got to have a place to live in this town if we want their kids going to our schools, our nursery programs, our playgrounds, and everything else that we're trying to do for those kids. So
absolutely.
We need to come up with some way to be on the cutting edge of finding out this information. It's been suggested to me that, maybe we should think outside of the box and approach some of these larger places that might be considering a future sale and see if they would let us know before they go on the open market or something like that.
Yeah, and we approved a housing specialist, and so certainly would hope that would be part of what that person would be doing. You talk about decades, Barbara, you and I were on the first affordable housing committee in this town 2 decades ago. I think it was 1998.
But we haven't done very well for it.
That's right, we haven't. But you're right, the Housing Trust Fund, for example, you remember a couple of years ago, we had to go through a private person to buy a house for us and hold it, and then the town voted. We don't have to do that anymore. There is enough money in the Affordable Housing Trust Fund that when there is a property that comes up like that, we could buy it outright, with the approval of the Affordable Housing Trust, not town meeting or not anybody else. And how much money is there in the Affordable Housing Trust currently, Alex? You're muted. You're muted.
There's just over $2.7 million in the trust fund. However, 687,000 of that is earmarked for property,
Right.
1533 Main Street that we had voted upon and hasn't closed yet. And then provided that the CPC articles are passed at the annual town meeting, there'll be another $500,000 put into that next year.
So we have $2.5 million.
Yes.
Could do just what you're saying, Barbara. Purchase outright something that comes on the market.
Exactly.
So this will be a good discussion for next week when we have Ali Sabatino before the committee to present some of these housing articles as well.
Okay, John Whalen, you had a comment. You're muted, John. Unmute.
No, he took his hand down.
Oh, Debbie Aikman, your hand is up.
Yes, just a brief little tidbit. Chronicle's just out, and it appears to me that there's a real estate transaction for the Master Mariner sold to a Harwich real estate agent and an auctioneer. That's what it looks like. So
When was that, recently, Deb?
just today, I mean, the Chronicle is just the transaction,
Huh,
real estate
Great.
transaction. I was
Great.
amazed.
There goes another one.
yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that to the mix.
How much was it?
Thanks, Debbie.
Thanks, Debbie. And Debbie, what,
You'll see in the Chronicle, I think 800 or I don't know. I don't remember the exact amount.
and we never even knew about it or had a chance to bid on it. So
That's why I mentioned it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's all sounding a little pessimistic. I'm not sure that we didn't know about it because who might they have contacted? And we wouldn't necessarily hear about it. We, the finance committee.
no,
Presumably somebody else could have been working on it. We don't know. But I know that years ago, we tried to emphasize to the board, to the realtors in town, to please, if you've got something that looks suitable, please bring it to us, meaning the town of Chatham.
Right.
And the result, as far as I can tell, has been nada.
Yes.
That's the really frustrating part.
And Andy, you're absolutely right. And with the market today, it's gotten worse. You know, they don't have to wait 2 days and they've got bids all over. So you're absolutely right. Okay, with that, we need a motion. Tommy Doan, your hand is up.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. My hand's been up so long, I forgot what I was going to say.
Oh, sorry.
I mean, maybe this new housing coordinator will be somebody that can search these things out.
We hope so.
You know, we can only hope, and maybe we explain or to her or him that we need somebody to be doing this because we're getting these things taken right out from under our noses.
Yeah, and Ally will be at our next meeting, and she is going to move into that position as housing specialist. So certainly, Tommy, that's a very good point for us to make to her. But I think Andy's right. It's not up to the finance committee.
No.
We support this, but there are other entities. Tommy, your hand is down. Okay, we need a motion to adjourn, if that's it.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Andy,
Yes.
Barbara Madison,
Yes.
Joanne Sprague,
Yes.
John Whalen.
Yes.
Yes.
Tommy Doan,
Yes.
and the chair says yes. And so we are adjourned. Have a good weekend, everybody, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you very much.
Bye, everybody. Bye.